I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, to the podcast. Josselyne is the founder of the Art of Being Unmessable and a master coach who spent over 35 years helping people stop reacting to life and start powerfully creating it. She's worked with more than 200,000 individuals around the world, from CEOs and artists to trauma survivors and nonprofit leaders, helping them live a life of their dreams now, not someday. She's also a former Billboard #1 pop artist, a TEDx speaker, author, mother of 3, and the founder of United Global Shift, where she's raised nearly $90 million for causes in over 20 countries. So today's episode is all about overwhelm, burnout, and what it really means to lead from vision instead of reaction. Josselyne shares her framework for becoming unmessable with and the mindset shift that helps founders, leaders, and humans take back their power when things feel chaotic. It's going to be a great episode. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Derek Fredrickson. Welcome to the COO Solution Podcast, the show for business owners and visionary leaders who want to scale with clarity, confidence, and the right support. For over 16 years, I've been in the trenches as a fractional COO, Chief Operating Officer, helping entrepreneurs align their teams, streamline operations, and remove bottlenecks that slow growth. I understand the challenges, feeling overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or uncertain about how to scale without burning out. I've helped business owners move from chaos to clarity, creating businesses that run smoothly and grow and scale. Each week, I'll bring you real-world insights, proven strategies, and practical solutions to help you step into your highest role as a leader. Whether it's optimizing your team, strengthening accountability, or building the right systems for growth, this podcast is here to support you in scaling smarter. So if you're ready to create a business that thrives without requiring more of you, let's get started. Hello there, everybody. It's Derek Fredrickson here from the COO Solution and the COO Solution Podcast. I'm very excited to welcome our guest today, and a very good friend of mine as well, a New Yorker and a Parisian. But today, Josselyne Herman-Saccio is joining us from New York City, and we have some amazing content and conversation topics to dive into. So welcome, Josselyne. It's great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. It's good to see you. It's been too long to see you in visually, so I'm happy to be here and share some time with you and your listeners.
Yeah, it's great. As I met Josselyne through my wife, Fabienne, a couple of years ago, and you spend half your time in New York and half your time in Paris. So when you're in Paris, we get together with your lovely husband, Mike, some really great dinner parties, but that's for another time. Today, we're going to talk about lots of things around vision and leadership and really supporting you as an entrepreneur in your business and in your life. And so we're going to dive into a couple of different topics, but I want to ask this question first. I think I may have asked it once before in private, but we're going to share it now to the world. You have this phrase of being unmessable with. It's your brand, it's your company. I think it was the name of your book, it's your program. So for our listeners who maybe understand on the surface what unmessable with means, what does it mean from your perspective, Josselyne, and why does that value and resonate for you so much?
I'll tell you what it doesn't mean, because a lot of people do hear it and think all different things. I mean, most people hear it and they go, I don't know exactly what that means, but I like it. Whatever it is, I want that, right? But it isn't about being tough, and it isn't about not feeling your feelings or anything like that. It's not about that. It's about being able to stay in the zone of your vision and what really matters to you and fulfill that from a world of creation versus getting hooked in the world of reaction or survival or shoulds, goods, bads, rights, wrongs, which is really where most people spend 99% of their time. So it's about being able to stay grounded in the world of vision and creation and word, no matter what life throws at you. Because it's easy to be unmessable with when life is great. Yeah. But when life throws stuff at you, as you know, my mother just passed, or like financial things that happen in the stock market, let's say, or political things, or just family issues or business situations where a client is unsatisfied with your work, or whatever life throws at you, being able to stay in that zone and not get thrown.
Okay, got it. So it's almost like having a layer of maybe like protection, but like a filter of like what can impact or influence you, and staying really grounded into who you are, what you know, what you value. I love the unmessable with. I'm not even sure if it's in the English language, but I think you've coined it and it works.
I trademarked it and I got it in the Urban Dictionary. And then like after 10 years, I found out it was in Webster's slang dictionary.
Oh my God.
So mission accomplished. I always wanted to be in Webster's.
Oh, that's great. Wow. Congratulations. That's for another topic. Okay.
Thanks.
So
yes, but it is an example of being unmessable with, about branding unmessable with in the world, because I want as many people as possible to have those muscles.
Yeah. So you have this interesting distinction for business leaders, for entrepreneurs, between vision and goals. So I want to just kind of tee this up for you, because I think this is your zone. This is your one of many sweet spots. What's the distinction for you in the work that you do and your message between vision and goals? Because I think some listeners may feel like maybe they are different, maybe they're one and the same, or maybe I should be understanding if they are apart in some way. So tell us about that.
Most of the people I work with are entrepreneurs and people who really want to level up. And when I ask them, what's your vision? 99% of the time they give me a goal. Like, well, I want to double my revenue, or I want to open up branches in 7 different countries, or whatever. So goals live in reality. Let me say a little bit more about that. They're measurable. They're visible. You can see, exactly what happened or what didn't happen. What I would call content. Vision is more contextual, and the context is actually decisive on your experience of life. I'm sure you and the people watching or listening have all had the experience of accomplishing a goal, but not really being fulfilled or satisfied. So part of that is because the goal doesn't live in your vision. So vision is more like how I would get to it with somebody, say, okay, let's say you accomplished that, you doubled your revenue. Now what? What's your experience of life? What becomes available experientially if you accomplish all those goals? So people really get to what they really want. And it's more in the realm of freedom or fulfillment or peace of mind or self-expression. So it's contextual phenomenon, which then has you view the content differently. And I can demonstrate this, because when I say context, sometimes people are like, wow, what are you talking about? But for those of you that have a visual podcast relationship, for those of you that don't, I'm holding up my pointer finger, right?
Okay, I'm going to do it as well.
Thing, pointer. Okay, good. So inside the context body part, this is a finger. I mean, it's obvious. You don't have to, it's not complex. It's not like I'm trying to trick you, right? But if I alter the context and say now inside the context number, what is it? That's a question for you, Derek, but I could answer it. Okay. Yeah. What is it in the context number?
It's 1.
Exactly. But it's not like you have to figure that out. You just see a 1 because the context shapes your view of the content. And inside the context, direction up. Right?
Yep.
So again, the content hasn't altered. The number of your revenue, the number of your team, the place where you live, the number of outlets you have, that doesn't change. But the view of the content alters depending on which context you're functioning from. So a lot of the work I do is about contextual shifts so that people can not only create their goals, what they really want, which is the experience. It's not about the stuff, and actually have their life be a fulfillment of that right now and right now and right now. Even before you double your revenue or expand to 6 countries, you can experience joy or fulfillment right now, or at Starbucks, or in this conversation.
I see. Okay. Interesting. So it sounds like the vision is kind of the overarching theme. It's the umbrella of like the why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. And the goal is more of the what you do to experience or to achieve that in some way. Like, talk to us about that. And as I know that in the work that you do, I think sometimes entrepreneurs or business leaders, they focus on like a goal chasing mindset as opposed to like a vision chasing mindset. And it sounds like we need to switch the paradigm and put the vision, the context at the forefront.
And it's not about do these things in order to have that vision be fulfilled. It's more that these things being done are an expression of my vision. So they are presencing my vision as I'm doing them. See, because how I work is I have 3 different worlds that I work from. One is the world of reaction. I call that the world of being messable with, right? Yeah. Which is really like survival, getting through stuff. And most entrepreneurs are very, very good at reacting. And they have to be, because there's emergencies coming at them. They have to put out fires. They have to deal with problems. So that mode, first of all, for your nervous system is very much like a fight, flight, flee kind of mode. And, you know, the adrenaline's going, you're getting dopamine hits from solving problems and accomplishing things. But it's a very different world from the world of creation and vision, which is where magic happens. And every single person that is an entrepreneur has had that experience, because when they first started their company, it was like they didn't know what they were doing. They were just doing and failing and succeeding, and it was joyful and fulfilling every single moment. But then at some point, what you create becomes a thing to manage. And you and I have talked about this, and that's why I love what you do, because, it's something to manage, and you become not a visionary leader. You become somebody who's managing a bunch of stuff that has to get done. And now you're no longer in your zone of genius. You are in management mode, and there is no magic in management unless that's your zone of genius, which is what's so great about what you do.
Exactly.
Because that marriage is so important. The world of reaction is one world. Then there's the world of performance, which is action, inaction, results, reality. And then there's this world of word, vision, creation. So my work is really about having people give up their 100-year lease in the world of reaction and establish residence in the world of vision and performance.
Okay, I love it. You know this. Fabienne tells me this all the time. Maybe it depends on how people are wired or their strengths or anything else. She often tells me, and this is something that we share with our clients, so I kind of, walk the talk, which is less doing, more being. Like be in that kind of vision, creative space, because we can do all day long. And guess what? The next day, there's more stuff to do. And we see this with our clients, as you know. There are those that have reached a level of success or a level of business growth where they're the operator, they're the manager, they're the chief firefighter, they're the doer of all these things. And they may have team and they may have process, but they get to this point where it's like, is this how I'm going to get to the next level of success, by just breaking through this ceiling and just doing more of the same? And it's where we step in and provide that structure to, free up the founder so they don't have to be doing in the doing, and they can be more in that creative vision context space, which is really powerful.
Because they become the bottleneck. They are the bottleneck, and this happens with almost every one of my clients. At some point, they become the clog in the pipe. And then the question is, okay, now what? What do you want your life to look like as a CEO, as an entrepreneur? Because your company, you built your company, but now it's almost like a prison of your own creation. That's why when I work with entrepreneurs, it's all about mastering that world of performance, creation, and freedom. Because freedom is you're working 24/7, as you know, or weekends, or as Fabienne knows, because I know she does this with women. I don't specifically work with women, but not that I have anything against women. It's just not my focus,
Yeah.
But at the same time, entrepreneurs sometimes just throw money at it. Like, okay, I'll hire this person or that person. I'll hire somebody to do the doing. But without the contextual part, then that person's just going to end up being burnt out. Context thing, when I work with companies, it's not just about the entrepreneur or the CEO. It's about the entire company getting into a culture of performance and word, because word is your paintbrush to make your masterpiece. And if you have a weak relationship to word, then the whole thing is a house of cards.
I see. I love asking this question when we have guests, because the way that I choose people to come onto the show are for those that have their zone of genius outside the lane of what our zone of genius is, right? So we provide COO support, this, and we bring in people that are, marketing experts or AI or health and wellness. So I love to ask this question, like, why this topic for Josselyne? I know you've been doing this a long time, but I always like to say, why is this still your joy now? Why is this your zone now?
Well, why this topic is really because this has been what I've used. This methodology that I now train people in has been what I've used my whole life to make every dream I ever had come true. And I have had every dream I ever had come true, from having a #1 record. I wanted to be a pop star since I was a child. I had a #1 record. I've raised over $90 million for charity. I am married to the man of my dreams. I live in Paris half the time. I have this amazing, there's nothing that I said, this is what and then I haven't been able to accomplish it. And it hasn't been by luck or who I know. It's literally a methodology that I am committed that people have, because I really do think people deserve to live their dreams, not chase them. And there's a statistic that 94% of people die with their dreams intact.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, what are you talking about? That's insane. Because for me, it's just been very accessible. I got on a mission, back in my 20s, to make sure that people had the tools to be able to live their dreams, not chase them, and be unmessable with no matter what life threw at them. Because I've had stuff thrown at me, my brother died when I was 22 and had lots of stuff thrown at me, but I've been able to continue to fulfill what's important to me versus getting thrown or stuck in that world of survival or reaction. That's why. But also, I used to work 80 to 90 hours a week. And I loved what I did, so I justified it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that. They go, yeah, but I love what I do, so I don't mind working, 20 hours a day or whatever it is. That's fine, but that's all from the world of reaction. So there's no design necessary to work a lot. I was leading transformative programs for a company called Landmark, which I love, and I love that work. And I have been participating in transformative work since I was 11 years old, which is 47 years. So I've had 47 years of practicing these muscles, and I was leading for Landmark and designing curriculum for 30 years. When I left, really to move to France, when I left, I went from working 80 hours a week to working 15 hours a week and 8,000 timing my revenue. I was like, okay, well, if I could do this, I'm not going to teach people how to do this, because this was not complicated and it wasn't difficult. It was designed. And if you can design and fulfill what you design, because it's your word that you're designing it in, and then you honor your word, then you can accomplish anything. There's nothing you cannot accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that we could dive into from just that alone. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story and your background around that. What I'm gathering from this, and I'm hoping that listeners and viewers are as well, like, this is deep transformational work, but it doesn't have to be hard work. It's very much aligned in what your values are, what you want in life, what you want to design, what you want to experience. I think there's an element, and this because we're both students of both professional development, right? Getting the business strategy and the tactics and everything else. But then there's also this realm of personal development, of working on yourself. And I just don't mean self-help, but I mean like really doing the work of designing what you really want for your vision, for your life, for your experience. Because like you say, there are some people that are going to continue to work and work and work. And then at the 11th hour, they're like, I made it. Like they slide into home and there's no time left. There's like, you didn't experience any of the joy or fulfillment or pleasure along the way. And so I think just being more intentional about what that is for you, for me, for each one of our listeners. And it may be different. It may not be moving to Paris. It may just be whatever that passion might be.
Although moving to Paris is a pretty good
It's not
universal.
too bad.
It doesn't suck. When people are in that mode of getting stuff done, and let me tell you something, I can get stuff done. There's no question. My husband and I talk about we should open a company called GSD Incorporated. It's not stuff, but Get Stuff Done Incorporated, because we accomplish more in a day than most people accomplish like in a month. So we're good at that. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't take any kind of consciousness to get stuff done for people like you and me, let's just say, because it's an automatic. It's like we are just by default get stuff doneers. If you're by default anything, then you're not creating. And anytime you're not creating, you're reacting. And it's not just linguistically that you're reacting or action-wise. It's also from a nervous system perspective. Your body is in that mode of, cortisol up. And that's why many people that are successful and effective, they end up burnt out. They end up, just kind of like from a well-being perspective, that's the first thing that goes for most people, especially women. There I am focusing on women, but it is especially for women, because for some reason, men take their well-being a little bit more priority, where women are like, oh, my workout can go. I have to do stuff for this, for this client or for whatever. I'm really committed that people have the tools to design their life from their vision. So it's a vision given life rather than a reason or circumstances driven life.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, this is something we talk about with our clients all the time. The same expression. There's all these things that you could do. And in the beginning, you could do everything because you had to. You were bootstrapping it.
Sure.
You figured all of those things out. But it gets to a certain point very soon after that, when you have some level of success, you need to make the distinction between what you could do and really what you should do. And if you stay in that could mode, you're describing, you're firefighting. I call it the whack-a-mole, where you're reacting all day long. And at a certain point, I want to just dive into this. You tell me like the root cause of like the overwhelm and the burnout is they're just in reactive mode all day long. They're in this fight or flight mentality, and there's just more stuff to get done. There's always going to be more stuff to get done, but if it's not aligned with your vision, then you've got no maybe drive. But speak to that, like overwhelm and burnout. Like, what do you see as the root cause for that?
Well, there's two things. One thing is not being related to reality. Most people aren't. They're in a narrative about reality versus reality itself. So burnout happens when you collapse reality and your shoulds and shouldn'ts and coulds and goods and bads and wrongs about reality. So that's one place where it's like, oh, I have so much to do. So much is not a real thing. That's not an amount of things. You have 7 things to do, you have 70 things to do,
Right.
but you don't have so much or too much to do. So the minute you get into a narrative called too much, you're going to be burnt out.
Yeah.
So that's one source. The other source is being disconnected from your vision. The context is decisive in your experience of life. So there are times where you're in action and doing things and you're not burnt out at all. You're energized. What's the difference is the context inside of which you're performing those tasks. So keeping your vision alive and real in whichever way you do it, there's lots of different ways to do that, keeps you from hitting that burnout world because it's all fulfilling something rather than getting stuff done. Getting stuff done is exhausting.
Yeah. I can see that. Let's say somebody's listening, like I say these things to myself all the time, right? So this is just as much as it is me for everybody else. Like, I have so much to do. I have a lot to get done. It's feeling overwhelming. Like, I understand that. But then there's like this point of like, okay, how do I shift that? So let's say I'm like having a really busy back-to-back, like 10 meeting. I'm on Zoom all day long from this time to this time. So it's a stressful day. How does someone like shift that context in a day or just like in a moment to kind of provide some relief or some perspective or just some sort of buffer or cushion from what feels like firefighting all day?
Well, a couple things. One thing is I do have this instant hack reset tool, which is available on my website, on the freebies part of my website, on beunmessablewith.com. You can instantly do it in a 5-step process. I'll give you that hack in a moment. But if I listen to what you're saying, you're collapsing 2 worlds. You're collapsing the world, the narrative about reality and reality. So you have 10 Zoom meetings. That's reality.
Right.
It's a stressful day is an opinion about 10 Zoom meetings. So the minute you relate to those 2 things like they're the same, you will be overwhelmed and burnt out. That's
right.
Just the way it is. You have to be able to discern when you're in that collapse. So the red flags, this is the instant hack part. You have to be able to see the red flags that are happening, whether they're linguistic red flags, like, oh, I have so much to do, some stuff you say inside your head or out loud, or physical red flags. So a lot of times people have a physical reaction to being in the world of reaction, like tight chest, or their neck gets red, or they start to have shallow breath, or what's yours, if you can kind of recall in a moment of being in the world of reaction or thinking things are so stressed.
Yeah, I don't openly share this, but there are some times where I feel my nervous system raising at a higher level, where I feel nervous energy. I feel a bit worried. I feel like ebbs and flows during the day when I'm having that type of day. Not every day is like that, but when it does, I'm very present to it because I've taken the coach. And so I'm like, okay, why am I experiencing this level of discomfort, this level of stress? Sometimes for me, I'll do like a breathing thing. If I had before like an important client meeting or a sales call, I'll do a little 4-minute like box breathing just to kind of calm the energy. But for me, I feel it's nervousness for sure.
Right. So nervousness is a narrative. It's not actually something that's physically happening in your body. So I'm going to keep pulling where you're collapsing narrative with reality. So if you look in your actual physical body, what actually happens that you're calling nervousness?
My heart starts beating.
Perfect. So that would be a red flag, a physical red flag. But like most people, you go, oh, I have nervous energy. Oh, I'm feeling my stress rising. None of that is happening. What's happening is your heart is beating fast, let's
Right.
just say. Why I'm saying that is because if you can catch the physical signal or red flag that you're going into that world, it precedes the narrative of, oh, my energy is now nervous. Your explanation about what's happening physically is from the world of reaction. What's happening physically is from the world of performance and reality. It's like physically my heart is beating.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no explanation about that in reality. There's only an explanation about it when you start to say, why? And I love that you said, why am I feeling this way? The minute you ask why, you're going to send yourself to the world of reasons, justifications, explanations,
calendar meetings, whatever. Yeah.
You just sent yourself into the world of reaction. So being able to catch the red flag quicker and quicker is a ticket out of it, because awareness, you need awareness. Otherwise, you're already down that road. You're already explaining why. Well, it's because I have so many meetings and it's because I didn't, reschedule that. And now you're in a world. Being able to catch when you're going to that world as fast as possible, then, because what's happening is, from a brain science perspective, is your amygdala is firing, right? So the amygdala is the part of the brain that's the survival part of the brain, and it's designed to survive. So you're in that nervous system place where you are reacting automatically. And even though it could be a good reaction because you're handling problems or whatever, it's still reaction. It's automatic. There's no design necessary, no consciousness necessary. You're just down that road, off to the races. So if you can catch what's happening physically, your heart's beating, you can then interrupt it. Now, you can use breathing. It's not my favorite hack because we're already breathing.
I'm open to suggestions. That's my own technique.
Yeah, but you don't always have 4 minutes. You know, that's the point. You could be on a meeting on Zoom and you've got to reset instantly. And 4 minutes is a luxury. That's a long time.
I'll finish each meeting 2 minutes early and finish or start it 2 minutes late when they join. Yes.
Exactly. Use breathing, and it's a simple hack. But you have to do intentional breathing because you're already breathing. So that's an automatic thing. So you have to do something where it's like breathe in for 4, breathe out for 8. So It's an intentionally designed breathing, which will then reset your brain. I tell people to do anything physical, like snap a rubber band or shake your hands or squeeze your thighs, something that's going to kind of moonstruck you, snap out of it. So you're interrupting physically.
Like change the state.
Exactly. And that is why I say to do something physically, because you can't think your way out of the amygdala because the thinking is happening from the amygdala. So you have to interrupt with a physical interruption, an intervention into where your brain is functioning from. And the minute you do that, you've gotten to neutral, right? Now, the problem, like with your breathing thing, I'll just kind of assert this.
I love that we're using me as an example with this, but I'm fine with it. I'm just...
Why not?
Of course.
We can all relate.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody is like, okay, now I can really understand this. Yeah.
There's no one who's listening who doesn't get sent into that world, right? Every single human being, and I've worked with, a couple 100,000 people coaching them over the last 39 years. Yeah. There's no one who doesn't get hooked like this, right? And maybe it's not in business. Maybe it's with your cousin or your brother or your mother, whatever, but it's still, you're hookable. That's what it is to be human. So anyway, you get to neutral, which is like a relief in between meetings, right? With the breathing thing. The problem is most people haven't designed an alternate place to go. So they end up back in the world of reaction. So you have like a moment out of the dirty water, but then you end up back in the pool. What the Unmessablewith methodology does is it has you have a pre-created space, a vision to go to, so that when you get to neutral, it's like being at a fork in the road. You have the left side, you could go down the Unmessablewith road. It's a smoother road because you've been down it 8,000 times in your life. And there's McDonald's and there's, cappuccino places and gas stations. So it's much easier to go down that road. But the Unmessablewith road, the world of vision, you have to pre-create, because in the moments, like the heat of the moment, you're not going to be able to create anything. Exactly. Yeah. So that vision of fulfillment or freedom, then you take an action to put yourself in that world. So what action? This goes back to the beginning of our conversation about it's an expression of your vision, the action. So what action could I take right now that would express freedom or that would presence freedom?
I see.
Or that would manifest it right now, not someday when I hit my revenue goal, but like right now, this moment, what would express connection, or whatever your vision is. So you have to kind of pre-design that. So you have a recipe, like a little bit of a repertoire, as it were, of pre-created actions until you get good at it. But in the beginning, that's how you spark the muscles. You pre-create the vision, you pre-create the actions, and then you kind of have some go-tos. Like I had a woman who her husband had a traumatic brain injury. He would say things to her and her default was to take it as insulting or mean, whatever. He wasn't regulating his action, his speech and everything. So she would take it personally, basically. So she pre-created a vision of love and care. And she pre-created a few actions. Like when he would do that, she'd catch herself, she'd get herself to neutral. I don't remember her hack. But then she would go to love and care, and she had to make him a cup of tea, give him a hug, hold his hand. Those were some simple actions she could do to express that vision in those moments.
Yeah. I love this. I'm getting a lot from this for me.
Great.
On a practical level, but I think also the way that I'm looking at it and what I'm reflecting back is that it starts with the intention, because I think people just go into their day and, the Derek before today in most cases would just be like, okay, I've got a busy day. It's going to be busy. I've got a lot of meetings. It's going to be stressful. It is what it is. And what I'm realizing is that if I can set a different kind of thought pattern or a different intention about what the day is.
A context. It's not so much an intention because that turns into a goal.
Right.
It's more of a context, because if you wake up into that context of, I got a busy day, this is just what it is, you're in survival already. You're going to survive the day.
Yeah.
until you can get to 10 o'clock and have a glass of wine or something.
Right. Right.
It's like you're in survival mode. So to be able to stop and create a vision for the day. And this is one of my freebies, is also daily practices to be unmessable with. So people can grab that too. One of the pieces is that.
Okay. And then I love the idea of the hack, because for me, I'm always looking for, like, what is the hack? What is the thing that's the tactical thing that we can do in the moment? I'll share one of the things that I've done. It was by design in a way, but I haven't been using the space for anything to get back into the context of the vision. But I'm very strategic. I'm now like, unless it's impossible, I'm no longer like back to back to back to back, because that for me would just create so much stress and anxiety. So now there's at least 10, 15 minutes between everything. I know it sounds basic and I know it sounds simple, like, oh, I should do that. And I'm like, well, until you do and your calendar actually lives by it, it's still going to feel in the same whack-a-mole kind of way, but I'm not using that space with anything that can kind of bring me back, as you said, like bring me back to neutral. Like I've done the breathing thing, but I think if I go back to a little bit more of like the vision and the context and bring in that could help for sure.
And you could just keep the vision on a Post-it on your computer. So in between meetings, and I do want to go back to, first of all, designing the calendar is one of my biggest tools. I have a calendar workshop that I do with people, and it's all about creating a context with every to-do, because your calendar is mostly a to-do list.
Yeah.
But if you have workout on your calendar, it's another thing to do. There's a recipe for burnout. But if you creating vitality, workout, now, all of a sudden, you have context and content in every calendar occasion. Creating connection, Derek's podcast. It becomes like you have a heading that you've designed into your calendar. People start talking about their calendar and it's like porn for me. I love anything about the calendar, because for me, my calendar is my canvas. It is my mode to design my whole life. So yes, you can do the thing with the breaks in between, but what if you didn't have to? See, being unmessable with is, even if you have back to back, you get to stay in that space of your vision.
I see.
That's the difference.
That's very true. I love that last point. I'm going to change. So right now I have, don't laugh, but I have a block in my calendar every weekday from 12 to 1 and it says lunch, and I look at it as a to-do. And you know what's interesting, and again, you know Fabienne, and sometimes we go through phases where it's like a very quick and simple lunch. Like today, we had a delicious, I think it was like a butternut squash soup. I mean, it was like 10 minutes. You know us. Usually we have like 3-4 hour lunches and dinners, and we haven't been doing
you're
more
in Paris,
of that.
of course.
Of course.
Yes, exactly.
And so I think just changing it and something other than lunch, because that just feels like a to-do.
Create connection, create vitality, create nourishment, create well-being. But always I tell people to start with what you're creating and then what you're doing.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is, you're not a human doing. And we've turned ourselves into a human doing instead of a human being. So it's like, what is the space we're creating, not the thing we're accomplishing?
Got it.
Including doing nothing, because, you know, again, high performers are just do. So I tell everybody, schedule recharge time, you know, like creating energy, and do nothing, even if it's 15 minutes. And you could do that in between your meetings.
I've been doing that as well. My chair is right there. And sometimes I'll just sit. I'm always looking at my phone. I'm with the kids and the Slack and the email and the calendar, everything else. And I feel like sometimes my brain goes into that mode. So I just sit there, but I'm not designing it. I'm just kind of sitting there to kind of like take a pause, but I can do something better to really maximize that throughout the day.
And that's the muscle. You get to build the muscle, because otherwise you're just getting relief from the chaos.
Yeah.
And relief it's better than no relief, but it just isn't sustainable. You know, it's like a moment of relief, and then you got to go back to the grind. If you had a moment of relief and then you went to your vision, there's a difference between, you know, the grind and fulfillment. So one is looking down and in, and one is looking up and out.
Yeah. And the glass of wine at the end of the day also.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Josselyne, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. I know you mentioned a couple different resources and a couple different things that people can check out to find out more about you, the work that you do, your methodology. Where can people find you? What would you recommend in terms of a couple different places where they can start?
Well, go to the website, because it has everything, beunmessablewith.com. And there's a freebies page, so you can get all the things I talked about, the instant reset, the daily practices. You could also subscribe to my podcast, which is Be Unmessable With, or Instagram, and then you'll get everything, because I post all the time. And I have 2 episodes a week, a solo and a guest episode. So
oh my gosh, 2 episodes a week. I forgot. I'm once every other week. I got to raise the bar a bit there.
Hey, step it up, baby.
I know.
Step it up.
Let me work on this first, and then I'll ramp up.
But that has to do with design. I mean, when I designed doing the podcast, I was like, I'm not going to be scrambling for episodes. So I pre-recorded 30 episodes before I ever aired.
Wow.
So and now I have, maybe once a week I record an episode, but I have episodes through 7 months from now.
Right.
I don't have to record it. Yeah, exactly. So it's from designing a plan, backwards planning it, and then fulfilling on what I said ultimately. So that's part of the method.
I got it. Okay. And I love that last point you made. You mentioned it a few times throughout, like the word, like the spoken word, it really anchors it. Like you speak it, it's out there, it's real. It's not just something that's living in here or living in here. So I think the word matters because it kind of makes it more real and is like an accountability measurement in a way.
Yeah. And another place it lives is in your calendar. If I say I'll do your podcast, but I don't put it in my calendar, good luck. May the force be with you. I mean, your memory is not a reliable test for reality. In fact, Eric, it's funny, I have a workshop that's, I don't know when we're airing this, but 2026, we're doing a whole new program. It's going to be my core program called Word Bootcamp. And it's a 5-week, basically intensive to have what you say become real. No matter what it is. Like I say X, and whether it's intimacy in my marriage or double my revenue or whatever it is, to actually, it's like a gym for your word. I'm really excited about it.
Cool.
It's kind of like
love it.
All my work culminated into a 5-week thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Josselyne. This was wonderful. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
Our audience really got a lot. I know I did from this episode, this conversation. So I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your zone of genius, your brilliance. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on the show. Thanks, Josselyne, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the COO Solution Podcast. If you found today's conversation valuable, I'd love it if you could subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to get control of their business and scale it with a second in command that they trust to handle all the daily tasks and operations they don't enjoy. And hey, maybe you're wondering if now is the time to bring on a trusted fractional COO or Chief Operating Officer to help your thriving business scale with clarity and confidence. If you're tired of doing it alone, visit thecoosolution.com and take our free quiz to help determine if now is the right time to bring a fractional COO to help you scale. In just 25 questions, you'll get a personalized report that helps you decide if your business is ready for the game-changing support of a part-time fractional COO. Let's find out together if it's your next step. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.